bien, bonjour à toutes et à tous. Je vais m'excuser pour n'être capable de faire cette présentation en français, peut-être la prochaine fois. Et pourtant, de remercier aux traducteurs pour leur travail. Et I want to excuse myself as well because I'm gonna read a lot of things because I don't want to lose, we have a short time and I don't want to lose a word and I want to be very precise with what I'm going to say in English as well. I don't trust my English either so much. So I've been asked by the Maison de Pot to speak about specifically the regularization process of the foreign workers in 2005. It's 11 years now. Or what the government called insistently the immigrant normalization process. Words are very important, and why civil society we call it regularization and why the government call it normalization. It's quite clear in this quote I'm going to read you from Jesus Caldera, who was the Ministry of Labor at the moment, talking about this regularization, normalization for him. We are talking about a process of normalization always linked to a specific job and not about a regularization program, since it will be an individual and selective process only directed at those who are working and will continue to do so at least for a year, as Usman said, after it was only 6 months, with corresponding sanctions over unpaid past contribution to the social security system, as this contribution should be paid by the employers after these sanctions were eliminated, and where the permit will be subject to the continuity of employment. Well, what lies behind this demagogic terminology, of course, as you can imagine, is the so-called call or pull effect that is used so many times to deny the rights to the fundamental rights to the migrant people and the developing of proper migrant laws. So, as we said, it wasn't the only regularization process in Spain, but it was the largest and the latest. But as it was 11 years ago, I would like to do a brief context analysis. As you know as well, Spain is very different related to the migrant flows than France or any other country in the area. We have the first immigrant law in 1985, 35 years ago. Before, we didn't need it because the problem we had was that we have many immigrant workers working abroad and very few immigrant workers working in Spain. To symbolize this, it's very curious, for example, that even in 2005, the State Secretariat was named as the State Secretariat of Immigration and Emigration, because immigration was still in the common culture. And then in 2004 was the first time that the immigration issues were put under the labor minister. Till then they were somewhere else. Well, irregularity in Spain has been persistent and structural. That's why we had many regularization processes in 1991, 96, 2000, 2001, and the last 2005. This comes to show that every 4 or 5 years in the 90s and the first part of the 2000s, the state had to make an extraordinary regulation process because of the failure of the general immigration laws. And I have to say, as you can see, that these regularization exceptionary processes were taken under all kind of government and colors in the Felipe González socialist presidency, in the presidency of the conservative Aznar, and in the first period of the socialist Zapatero as well, from 2004 to 2008. It's very important to contextualize this first mandate, the presidential period from Zapatero, because it wasn't only taken or held this big regularization process, but as well many other progressive laws like the gender violence law or the homosexual marriage law. And then the context was very, very different from what it was, from what it is now, and unfortunately for what's gonna be in the next years, I'm afraid. On one side, politically, because we were going out from a large 8-year period of a really tough conservative government of Aznar. I want just to make a reminder that in 2004, the bomb attack in the trains in Madrid were taken 3 days before the elections. The conservatives were meant to win them by other surveys, but they spent 3 days cheating on the population, blaming ETA about the attacks and so on. So really, in that first 5 years of the 2000 decade, there were many elements that have to be taken into consideration. So politically, economically as well, it was just 3 years before the actual economic crisis, or rip-off, I would say, better. But at that time, Spain was meant to be an example of economic development. We were meant to be the 8th economy of the world at the time, and we were all very proud of that. Then in 3 years, we saw that that wasn't true and real at all either, but at the moment we thought that. And then we had a low percentage of foreign population compared to other countries, and we still do have this low percentage. And then, as I said before, there was a high level of social mobilization during the last government of Aznar and the first years of Zapatero government, with continuous demonstrations in the street, massive, and not only to demonstrate against Iraq or other policies, but also in France you had the sans-papiers movement many years in advance. The Papers for All movement in Spain started and was really strong in this period I'm talking about. So, and it was a demand of the social movements to have a massive regulation process, because, as you said, we had 1,300,000 irregular people at the moment. So, to tell you about some numbers and start and try to conclude, at the time we had 3,700,000 foreign residents in Spain. 2 million more or less had the residence permit, and the rest didn't. But nearly 300,000 were European citizens that didn't claim for the residence permit. So that meant that 350,000 were irregular. The regularization process took nearly 700,000 applications. The 85% were accepted. This is a really high score. That means that nearly 600,000 irregular workers were regularized by this process. This is good, it's not bad, but there are many dark sides on this process that I think could be lessons to learn nowadays, from the present moments and for the future. First of all, as Usman has said, this process was on the hands of the employers and the patronal, because they were the ones who had to, they were in charge to submit the applications. So what happened at the end of the day was that in reality, the workers, the immigrant workers who had to pay in exchange of being regularized were really draconian working conditions, like really no holidays, really large working days, and many, many others. Another thing very important, the 40% of the approved applications were for domestic workers. I don't know how it works in France, but in Spain, the inviolability of your house is set by law. So no inspection can happen for all these worker women. That means that many of them, they work and they live in semi-slavery situation. And there is nothing we can do about it, because you can't go into their houses to look how they are working and in which conditions. And in many cases as well, the workers were forced to pay the permit fees and the social charges that should be paid by the employer. And then we have the remaining point that maybe we will discuss. I know we are talking about regularization of immigrant workers, but if we do this, we neglect and we ignore the real problems of the rest of the immigrant population, the people under 16 or over 65, the women that are not allowed by their husbands or whatever to work, or the ones that are not able, can't join the labor market. And I think we have at least to think about them when we start the discussion. So as a general conclusion, and I will read this literally, sorry for this, what we think about this 205 regularization processes and all the processes before is that every instance of an extraordinary regulation program is the result of a previous failure. As it shows the official means and procedures to receive, host and grant residence permits to immigrants, to say is that all the general immigration policy in Spain in these last decades, the Thai settlement system, the very special measures taken, the job search visas linked to quotas, and the contract in origin mechanisms, all these measures have so far been unsuccessful in channeling the entrance and regular settlement of people in an efficient and time-bound manner. And obviously, they are violating the right to migrate of every human being and to find decent means of life in any place of the planet. So, merci à tous.